Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pastor Keith. Hi, Pastor Keith.
Hi.
We have a bit of a long question today. We had a few questions come in, just
Okay.
asking about the current situation that's going on in the Middle East, especially between Israel and Palestine. Many questions asking if you could help provide some historical and biblical perspective about the conflict, about the situation, about the context, and things like that in general.
Sure. That's very complex and very difficult question. And as you know, our focus is to make the a complicated question into very short answers. Obviously, we cannot, explain everything behind it or present all different views. I think biblically and historically, especially, I think we need to talk about a few things, facts. Because there seems to be a lot of confusion and a lot of politically minded journalism as a result, academia, and a lot of people are confused. So I just want to go through a few things.
Okay,
First of all, there is no Palestinians. Palestine is a name that Romans gave to Judea in order to, dishonor them. And after 70 AD, the temple has fallen, and Israel continually lost power, and they're heavily oppressed by Romans. After early part of second century, with the Masada, the mass suicide of Israelites, that was the last stand, so to speak. And the history tells us most Israelites were expunged from that land. But that's not true. A group of people still live there, and so on and so forth. Even before that, though, the land, Canaan, was not Jewish land. It's a promised land. And we know that from Joshua, it conquered, and God told them to drive them out. They didn't, and they couldn't to a certain extent. And they figured that using them as slaves and to help them to build was more beneficial for them. There's a lot of compromise went on, as you know, the scripture. So we know even through that part of history, we know the land was always occupied with not only Jews, but other people groups as well. So like Samaria is very famous, right? The exiles from Assyria, Neo-Assyrian Empire, they came back, the Jews came back, and they divorced their wives and married the Gentile women in order to recapture their inheritance, their land. There's a mixed marriage and so on and so forth. And that's why there's a tension between Jews and Samaritans at the time of Jesus. And the Galilee was known as a place where a lot of Gentiles were. So Gentiles Galilee, they used to call. And there are so many different factors happening. So is it right that, because of the Bible's account, because Davidic kingdom and Solomon and Judea and Israel, can we claim that the land belongs to Jews? I don't think that's going to be received well in secular world, especially. And wars have happened, the boundaries have redrawn, and all that kind of things. So bring it back to modern history. Modern history, current Jordan, Syria, Iraq, these boundaries, and even Turkey, under Turkey, all those things were reestablished after World War II. And the Britain and the French could not sustain their colonies anymore. And so they have to kind of give it up. So independence is not because of their generosity of their hearts, but the situation forced them to do it. And they drew the lines very irresponsibly. And they had no really regard for the people, and in all that happened. So falling of Ottoman Empire already made a lot of vacuum, and because of that, a lot of Western power colonized it. And then World War II, out of necessity, they had to give back the land, but they drew the boundary lines very haphazardly, such as Kurdistan. The Kurds should have their own land, but it was all divided out because of the pressure, political pressures, and things like that. And so now what we have is that 1948. The UN kind of gave permission for Zionists. Many of them who already lived there, they went back before that. They had keep the camps and things like that. Now, 1948 independence happened to Israel for the first time in 1800 years. People, same race came back with the same religion and same language that's never been done before after 18 centuries. Now, within 24 hours, they are attacked by an Arab coalition, and to snuff them out, literally put them out in the Mediterranean Sea. That didn't happen. Israel won that war within 24 hours of independence. And there are three critical wars that has happened, and that's the first one, 1948 Independence War. And after that, 1967, there's Six-Day War. There's another coalition of Arabs trying to wipe them out. That, because of spy network, Mossad, and all that, Israel won most of its territory back. That's the time they got Jerusalem back, and the West Banks and Gaza, everything back. Now, the problem begins, and this is not only the victory in war, but it has become a stench in the nostrils of Arab coalition and their shame. So a lot of give and back went back, and so within actually 24 hours of winning that West Bank property, they offered it back to Jordan, because Jordan was a nation that was newly established by UN after World War II. 75% of Jordanian population is Palestinian, the people, and because of that, they offered it back for peace. They rejected it. That's why it remains as occupied territory, right? So Israel outright won that place, and either they exile, go to Jordan, or become assimilated into Jewish nation. They refuse both. Now, a lot of people don't know that, but in Israel, about 20 to 22% are Arabs. Israelis. In fact, the Israeli army, about 25% are Arabs. Was fighting for Jews. So it is a pluralistic society. Many people misunderstand. So now, after that, 1973 was the last major war, that Yom Kippur War. And from Israel's vantage point, they are sucker punched, because Yom Kippur is most holy day. Most people are fasting, and they didn't expect that. And it's their fault, and they got attacked. And even that one, they overcame. Now, since then, they made peace with, so as like after 1967, Egypt was the biggest loser out of that. They lost Sinai Peninsula. Israel gave it back to Egypt for peace and recognition as a nation, which they received. So now Egypt and Jordan are at peace with Israel. So this is kind of a weird situation. People don't know that. So now in the land of Israel, current day Israel, there are three different jurisdictions. One, Jews control everything. Israelites control everything. Second area is they share the policing and the jurisdiction and the policy making. And third is entirely Palestinians. No Jews allowed. In fact, there are many signs that Jews cannot go into that place, and vice versa. So here, Gaza was the second type of city, the district, Gaza Strip was. So Israeli military presence was there. They did the policing, and the Gaza, the Palestinians did most of the municipal decisions and policy making. 2005 September, because a lot of conflicts, a lot of rockets coming over, so they decided to evacuate Gaza altogether and give it to Palestinian as their whole district. So they control everything. No Jews are allowed. If you look at UN, there's two agencies. They deal with refugees of the world. And the one that takes care of all the refugees of the world except Palestinians. And the other organization exclusively takes care of Palestinian refugees. And there, we know this what happened October 7th last year, that the war, about 1,200 Jews were killed, and another 100 or 200 were kidnapped, and so on and so forth. Until that time, they had 18 years, and this funding that comes in from UN and other places, literally billions of dollars. Now we have a top 3 Hamas leadership. Their net worth are average 3 to 4 billion each people. So we know all the infrastructures and all that need to happen didn't happen. They only made underground tunnels, which is 500 miles long, which is incredible. And if you look at Gaza, the hospitals are built not by Palestinians, not by the money that was given to them, but the donation from like other Muslim countries like Indonesia, Qatar, and that type of things. So, people think it's apartheid, and Jews are oppressing them and all that. Jews got nothing to do with Gaza. The horrible situation in Gaza is creation of Hamas, this group. So now, after all this, I don't want to go into details of the horrific things they did, to all these people. But the Jews are out of Gaza since 2005, right? And that's the situation now. We don't want to see anybody suffer, especially children and the weak and the women. But that's what's going on. What happened was Hamas was created under Bush administration because they were pushing for or doing an experimentation for 2-state solution. One Jews, one Palestinian, completely separated. So that gave power to the Gazans, people in Gaza, to vote and elect their preferred group of people. Until then, Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, was quasi-power all over West Bank and Gaza as well, 2 separate areas. But Gaza chose Hamas over PLO. And Hamas is not only a political arm, but is a terrorist organization. But they chose them. Even October 7th attack, we know many UN workers, refuge for Palestinian, over 300 some numbers actually participated in going over and committed heinous crimes and all that. And 75% of Gazans approved the October 7th attack. They have chosen them, and after that, they didn't have choice to choose someone else. That happened in that. So now they are stuck with it, but they're by propaganda and everything else, they're kind of brainwashed, and they were wholeheartedly in destroying Israel. So now it is heartbreaking to see the suffering and all that going on, but that's a part of choice, right? I was spoken to a person who just hated the United States and U.S. Army. He during Korean War, his family was destroyed by American bombs and soldiers and like that. But then rest of the Koreans, we are saved, we are liberated because of Americans, and they were fighting for the wrong party. So here, it sounds really cold and all that. In this world, there's no clear solution. It's a sinful world. Nobody is completely right and completely wrong. There's only trade-offs. Lesser evil from the worst, and that's what's going on here. That's why it's so heart-wrenching to see a lot of suffering of some people. But this is why elections and those things are very important. And so what's going on right now is that Israel, from the Israel's viewpoint, they cannot have Hamas survive this one. Because just imagine it, Tel Aviv is like Irvine here, Irvine, California. Very peaceful, very prosperous, high-tech, area. And you are having these rockets lob over, once or twice every other week. And your favorite grocery is gone, and some people got hurt, and you hear this siren every week. And on top of that, there are little crimes that we don't hear about. They train these little preteens to stab older Jewish people because they will be set free as minors. That's going on a lot. And there are a bunch of bus bombings in the past. So there's a lot of these things going on. They put up with it. Now, this October 7th, 1,200 people mutilated and little children, hands back tied and burned. You cannot allow that kind of thing to happen again as a nation. Any nation, Canada, U.S., Germany, Korea, nobody will put up with this. And as long as you leave this group of people, their reason for existence is to wipe out Israel. Then from the Israel's viewpoint, they cannot let that happen. It's not a piece of land. They gave it up for them for this two-state solution experimentation in 2005. This is the fruit of it. From their viewpoint, we tried, this is what we got, and you want us to just suck it up and wait until next calamity to happen? They're not going to do it. And Palestinians, they are in a rock and a hard place because Egypt doesn't want to receive them. Jordan doesn't want to receive them. And they cannot go any place. They're stuck in this small place, and everything is bombed up, and they cannot go any other place. So it's a very, very difficult situation right now. And so it is simplistic to say, anti-Israel is a solution or anti-Palestinian is a solution. It's not that. It's a human suffering. It's an evil, and it is going on. And we just pray that it will end soon and have some type of solution that, Israel as a sovereign nation can live with. They're not gonna live with another time bomb that's gonna have another thing like that. And so I think it's very important that this was instigated by nations like Iran more so than Palestinians, and because of that, this is even more complicated. So what is the answer? We pray for peace, but right now, biblically or historically talking about, I think we can understand what Israel is doing. You may not agree with their solution, but there's no solution on this. There's only trade-offs, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful context.
Yeah.
I think that'll help us even as a first step make and do focused, informed prayer and covering for peace with the situation and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, from Israel's viewpoint, they offered the land 11 times in the past.
And rejected each.
Yeah,
each time.
rejected each. Even PLO, a leader, he has lost confidence of people. 85% do not trust him. But he's still in power. So that's why they lean toward Hamas. They don't have a choice here. There's corruption everywhere. And so these people are caught in the middle of very difficult choices. Palestinians.
Yeah.
So we have to pray for them as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pastor Keith, for that. Yeah, and hope you guys can really listen through and follow through on that information, especially with prayer. And we encourage you to continue to pray for all that's happening over there. And thank you for joining us this week for an episode of Ask Pastor Keith.